Today we will talk about how to deal with a toxic person. Have you ever had to deal with one of these people? Have you managed to avoid the impact they tried to have? And if so, do you think you acted in the right way to deal with them? We're talking about those who generate negative feelings with their behavior, who try to appear positive, but deep down are manipulators. If you're lucky enough to have never met someone like this, throughout the video we'll tell you what you should do to avoid becoming one of their victims. And if you've already had to face a toxic person, we'll explain a solution so you can compare it with your strategy to avoid doing something you'll regret later, or even improve your strategy. Does that sound like a good idea? If so, follow us in this video. First, let's talk about you. In this video, we assume that you have a problem with a toxic person and have suffered abuse from one or more of them. Generally, for one reason or another, unless you're a hermit, you will meet toxic people throughout your life. And of course, you intend to ensure that in these inevitable encounters, you do not end up irreparably harmed. You've tried to do something, or perhaps you haven't tried anything for fear of making a mistake. You don't want to do something terrible to these people in an attempt to defend yourself, which could lead to retaliation and a spiral of violence. Do you want to find yourself forced into that situation? If the answer is no, continue with us. Now, on the other side are the toxic people themselves, who can be found everywhere in our society. Sometimes these people, who may be undesirable for very good reasons, can be inevitably encountered as they are members of your family, school, or work colleagues, and professionalism will end up forcing you to tolerate them. You can come across toxic people in your neighborhood or among those you considered your friends. In cases like these, it's easier to avoid them. Is your goal to solve problems with these people in such a way that you don't end up worse off? If the answer is a resounding yes, this video has the answer you're looking for. Here, we will help you find a way to deal with these people so that you don't end up in impossible situations. And to show you a practical example of what we're going to teach, we're going to tell you a wonderful story in which Buddha himself deals with a toxic person, or more specifically, a person who mistreats him. This story is very famous, so we wouldn't be surprised at all if many of you have read or heard it. One day a man approached Buddha, and for some reason he began to shout and insult him. He was cursing Gautama Buddha. So do you have an idea of what the master did to face this situation? For those who don't know this story, what Buddha did was smile. Yes, many of you may have guessed, as we are talking about a prominent figure, it makes sense that he would react in the least expected way possible. But we're not talking about a fictional character who seeks to surprise the audience just for the sake of it. There was a lot of logic in Buddha's attitude, and as contradictory as it may seem at first, you'll see that there was a reason for it. So in the face of offense, Buddha smiled. At first, he showed no noticeable reaction throughout the entire monologue that the man was hurling at him. He simply listened with a perpetual and sincere smile, a smile on his face that radiated positivity. And he was not ignoring him. At all times, Buddha looked at this person perfectly, paying perfect attention to every word he was saying. The master looked at this toxic person with extreme kindness. The response he gave to so much offense was to be absolutely courteous to that person. Finally, after several minutes of expressing his anger, the person finished shouting. Everything, even the slightest trace of anger accumulated in his mind, had ended as if it had never existed. It was over. Once this person calmed down and fell silent, wondering why he had not received an equally violent response as he was used to, he remained silent, waiting to see what his listener had to say. Then our great Supreme Master, Buddha Gautama, asked his interlocutor a completely unexpected question that seemed to disregard the context. The question seemed absolutely random and unrelated to the situation. The Supreme One asked, "Have you had guests at your house?" Seeing no response, he repeated, "Have people visited your house?" Once the person grasped what he was being asked, he was astonished, dumbfounded, and when he finally managed to gather the words, he answered, "Yes, I have had several visitors at my house," and to this the Supreme Buddha asked, maintaining his friendly tone, to that person, "Do you offer those people food and drink?" Obviously, this person responded, still confused, Yes, I treat those people with the hospitality they deserve. Once he got the answer he was expecting, Buddha continued his questioning. What would happen if your guests did not accept what you offered them? Then, to whom would those food and drinks belong if your visitors did not accept them? Faced with this strange question, the person who had been angry just minutes ago began to laugh in front of the Buddha. And when he finally could speak, his response was, "Well, obviously, if he does not accept my gifts, of course they are mine, and I will eat them." Then the protagonist of this story, with a noticeable and wonderful smile on his face, said the following, "The same goes in this situation, my friend. You treated me with harsh and rude words. You treated me with anger. But I am someone who does not accept anything that you gave me. I will never accept as mine those harsh and rude words that you were giving me. Therefore, if I do not accept anything you give me, then everything you have said belongs to you and it is your responsibility to eat it." The person was absolutely amazed and his anger was completely forgotten. Once he realized that this person was calm enough to listen, Buddha preached his Dhammapada, his teachings, to him. After this experience, that man who started out as an antagonistic figure to this character radically changed to become a follower of our Supreme Master, Buddha Gautama. Now that we've finished that story, what lesson do you think we can learn from it? Something we might analyze is how by using positivism against a toxic person, one of the great masters managed to achieve results that surely many of you could not have imagined or believe only possible in fiction. With this in mind, we'd like you to imagine what you would do when the time comes. You wait, live your life peacefully, and, as you expected, this person who employs toxic tactics attacks you. So you try to do something close to what Buddha did in this story. However, it might be too much for you the first time, whether due to fear or the frustration accumulated with that person, or even several attacking you at once, causing you to explode. Perhaps in your first attempts, you speak to them impatiently, trying to prevent them from continuing. You can't stand it anymore, and you rush to prove that they are wrong. It could be said that they will end up infecting you with their toxicity as you see them trying to manipulate you, and the thought that this justifies you trying to control them will cross your mind, but not calmly, rather with harshness and hard words exactly the same way they did. Maybe you've done it like this before and it worked temporarily, but once those people got over their fear or recovered, they attacked again. It's not wrong to have your failures and have victories if you felt bad for having attacked with violence. You're on the right path, as you recognize that you could have done better. If you get angry, it means you are sharing the insults of those people. But if you see something negative in your behavior, you are already proving to be better than those people. Because for a toxic person to use those negative tactics, it implies they lack empathy, that they have no remorse for what they did over and over. Recognizing what you did as a mistake shows that you are not a toxic person. You are different from them. Remember what Buddha Gautama said. If you deal with anger to those people who express themselves to you with anger, if you give them the same thing they give to you, it means that you are sharing their meal and eating it. By being able to say that you are not a toxic person and recognizing anger as a flaw, you have improved your sense of taste and recognize that the food they shared with you is spoiled. It is not healthy food. That food is toxic. It is poisoned. And just as they are poisoning themselves without wanting to recognize the harm they are doing to their health, at some point in your life you consumed that poison, but you still have time. Well, at this point you may have failed enough, or you may have had a victory from the start. Whatever the case, you have surely demonstrated with your words the non-recognition of the anger they try to make you eat. If you have written to people with internet, this is quite easy, but in the real world, it has an added difficulty. Your face may show that for a moment you succumbed to the temptation to accept that poisoned food in the form of unpleasant words. So the best thing will be to practice the first step. Do you remember what is the first thing you should do? What you must do, the first thing you have to do, as we said in the story, is to show a positive smile on your face. Never show your face of sadness or anger to those people who seek to offend you. The reason is because if you do, you are already letting them manipulate you. You will be showing them that they are right, and you are handing them on a platter what they selfishly want. They expect to hurt you, and if you show them that you are being hurt by them, you are letting yourself be defeated. You are not gaining anything, so you should not show those negative emotions. Show with your smile that you are not like those people. Or would you like to be like them? Would you like to be a toxic person? If you have reached this point in the video, the answer must be no. At this moment, you have succeeded. You have become a better person than those who attacked you and will attack you in the future. Initially, these toxic individuals might see you as weak, but it will be quite the opposite. You will have become a powerful person whom they cannot harm, someone they cannot manipulate. They get angry easily and seek to infect others with their toxicity as if it were a weapon or something positive, because they are mentally weak. And you, if you set your mind to it and finally achieve what we have guided you in this video, you will have become mentally strong. You will have forged an armor, not a physical one, but one much more valuable, one which they cannot penetrate because they will see that you are completely immune to their tactics. Yes, they may anger you a bit. You may need to pretend to the point that some tremors betray you, but still, they can do nothing against you because you will not express your anger. Because people who are mentally strong do not do so. They do not let themselves be controlled by that animal instinct that only serves creatures that act guided by instincts. We are intelligent, so we know when those feelings should be listened to and when they should not. And in this case, you will gain nothing good by letting yourself be guided by them. Toxic people are unpleasant because they are mentally weak. Physically, you show no signs of anger. Now, the important thing is not to interrupt them. In fact, listen to everything they have to say and wait for them to finish so you can speak to them again, calmly and courteously, without stooping to their level. At this point, your improvement as a person will have its results depending on the toxic person. These will vary, but all will be positive for you. Let's start with the most positive case, similar to the story of the Supreme Buddha. The toxic person will open their mind, will allow you to reason with them, you will reach an agreement. They will abandon their attempts to manipulate, and they might even listen to your positive solutions to the problem they have, because people who attempt to manipulate always do so because they have a problem. These people use these abusive tactics because they see no other alternative. Usually they are financially struggling, and their alternate solution to getting more money to solve their problem is to manipulate others to take money or something undeserved from them. Another possibility is that they admit that you are a unique person and want something that only you can give them. If you are young, they may be desperately trying to secure a romantic relationship with you or a unique good from you that they cannot get from anyone else. By showing them that you are not interested in their claims, you can calmly explain that they will not get what they so desire from you, and they will recognize that it's impossible, so they will accept to look for something similar from someone else or reflect and permanently abandon those attempts with anyone. We must also take into account cases where these people are right, and they are simply taking something too seriously that does not merit shouting and being rude to you. Regardless of whether they are right or not, you must listen to every word they say, and once you verify whether it is a misunderstanding or the pure truth, consider what it is that you must change in yourself if it is necessary to do so. There is no need to tell them violently that they are right. In fact, they should not even find out about your future change through your words. People who are angry hear without listening. They are deaf to reality. During that state of frenzy, they believe they are right and will not listen to your version of the facts. So, simply improve as a person, and over time you will be able to see that, well, if that toxic person does not realize that you have improved, at least in silence they will notice that they can do nothing to you, so they will leave you alone. Well done, you applied what we've discussed perhaps to the letter, or maybe by removing and adding details you thought would yield better results. You did not give those toxic people what they needed from you, your anger. With this, you managed to get them to leave you alone, or perhaps you even contributed to their change, helping them to stop being toxic people. But it was not just because you ended those toxic people. If you had continued to act with anger, you might have made them leave you alone, but it would have left you vulnerable to another toxic person in the future, and you would have spent your whole life enduring violence. But in this case, you didn't just defeat one or a few toxic people. You have prepared yourself to defend against all those who may appear in the future. That's the big problem with trying to solve everything with violence. You only manage to have a way to defend yourself against very specific people. However, when you learn to control your anger, you are prepared not only against people from the past, but also against those in the future. Now you have become mentally strong, which makes you stand out among many people, as it is very romanticized in our society to counter toxicity with more toxicity. But you are not just anyone, you are mentally stronger than those people. And although some may see this as a sign of weakness, others will recognize it as a virtue, and some may even be willing to learn from you. What remains is to reinforce that mental defense you have. For this, you can practice loving yourself. Once you manage to love yourself, negative feelings will no longer be tempting, including anger. Eventually, you will no longer want to get angry but enjoy positive thoughts. Thus, you won't want to share or cause suffering in others. If you are going to share something, it will be joy and positive words, or at least neutral ones. You will no longer be like those people who see toxicity as something positive. Practice kindness and compassion, because these two things will provide you with many answers to problems that will appear in your life. This will make you more humble, and remember, humility is not weakness, but a type of strength that will help you where rudeness will not, or if it does, it will only partially solve your problems. Visualize yourself in these situations instead of imagining that you attack them with violence. Imagine yourself with a genuine smile, listening to them patiently, and ultimately disappointing them by showing that at the end of the day, you did not share the poisoned food they offered you, making them poison themselves. In the end, you will be immune to toxic people without giving them what they want, preventing their anger from controlling you through an improvement in your mental strength. If this story has inspired you and you're looking for more wisdom and advice that could enrich your life, I invite you to watch our future videos. And remember, if you find something that interests you, share it with your loved ones. If you accept our invitation, we'll see you in the future.